Hi there my friends, it's Evelyn here. As always, welcome back to the channel. A huge thank you to you all for your continued love and support for this little creative corner of the internet. If you haven't done so already my friends, please hit that all important subscribe button below, and also come on over and follow me on Instagram where I share a lot of my makes too. This week it's time to get finishing that Liz dress mock-up, and if you haven't seen part 1 of the series yet, there is a link in the description box so you can do just that. Following that very successful fitting process, it's now time to finish that mock-up and grab my outer fashion fabric to do just that. I'm really excited for this process and I cannot wait to see the final dress. So without further ado my friends, it's time to get to some sewing. Let's go. 5th time lucky. Whoever said that filming YouTube is easy just hasn't done it, have they? Let's get some sewing. First up, it was pinning the pattern to my fashion fabric and then cutting out all of those pieces. For this mock-up, I've chosen to make the main underbodice and skirt in the tulip print and the bust piece in white cotton. And I've also chosen to do an unpleated bust this time around. Then it was time to baste the underlining pieces to the outer fashion fabric pieces, making sure to do so within the seam allowance so that these stitches won't be seen on my finished dress. Then it's time to get sewing, starting with the darts in the back bodice pieces. Next up, pinning and then stitching the side fronts to the centre front bodice piece. The bodice front and back pieces are then joined for the first time at the side seams. And now you can really see this bodice start to come together. Once you've spent the time fitting this pattern and getting a great fit with your mock-up, this dress really does come together quickly. Constructing the bust piece was my next step, beginning with the 2 lower cup pieces. Then attaching the upper cup. Before joining the 2 cups together at the centre front seam. Grabbing the bust lining layer, which is sewn in the same way as the outer layer, it's time to pin and stitch the 2 together along the upper edge before clipping and trimming seam allowances and pressing that top edge neatly. To finish the cup piece, pin and then baste the lower edges together. Now onto those gorgeous shoulder straps, which also form the strap creating the bust shelf design of this gorgeous dress. I began by pinning and sewing the front straps together at centre front. Then pinning and stitching the front and back straps together at the shoulder seams. Grabbing my strap lining, which was happily already constructed from my mock-up, I place these 2 huge pieces right sides together and get pinning. Be sure to have clearly marked the notches and dots from the pattern pieces and pay close attention to Gertie's instructions so you know where to pin and stitch and where not to. And after clipping and notching, understitching where possible, when turned out the right way, the strap looks like this. And it's now time to give it a big press before getting to pin it to the bodice. Matching the notches and dots on the pattern pieces, the strap gets pinned all along the top of the bodice and to the back necklines too, before being sewn in place. Pay careful attention to the notches and to Gertie's wonderful instructions, because this step really is much simpler than it seems. Now that the strap is inserted into the bodice, it's time to do the same with the bust piece, placing and pinning it along the centre front of the bodice before sewing in place. With the strap and bust piece sewn in, the bodice is really starting to look gorgeous. On to that bodice lining. Constructed from the centre front, side front and back bodice pieces, the lining then gets pinned to the inside of the bodice along the lower edge of the bust piece and up and along and around the back bodice piece, its right side facing the inside of the bodice. I took lots of time on this step, making sure to match notches, seams and dot marks. Be really careful here, my friends, not to catch that shoulder strap in your pinning and stitching. Gathered skirt time. To create a gathered skirt, cut a rectangle of your fabric, the length being your desired finished skirt length plus seam allowance, the width being at least twice your waist measurement plus seam allowance. If you'd like to see an in-depth look at how a gathered skirt can be created, be sure to check out my video here on the channel where I show you how to do just that. And there's a card above. This is what my gathered skirt looks like pre-sewing with the assistance of the looner, of course. It's currently folded in half because I'm going to do multiple sewing steps at once. I'm going to sew the hem on the lining layer, which I cut 2 inches shorter than the outer fabric, the line of gathering stitches along the waistline, and the side hem below where my zip will be inserted. Multitasking madness, my friends. Then it was time to pull on those bobbin threads to make the waistline of my skirt match the bodice waistline before pinning them right sides together, joining the bodice and skirt for the first time. And a hint of spring had finally emerged here, so this was pinned in my garden, sat in my egg chair. Bliss. And after careful sewing, the bodice and skirt are attached. Then it's time to install a lapped zip. Before the final step, hand stitching the bodice lining inside to conceal the sewn waistband edge and create a lovely neat finish. Reveal time. So here we are, my friends, one completed Liz dress. I'm so happy that I took the time to fit this properly in the first part of this Liz dress mock-up series. I'll pop a card above to the first part. And I absolutely love how this has turned out. It really does feel like a princess dress, and I cannot wait to create my final version using that gorgeous John Caldor fabric. So until then, my friends, you take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.